Welcome to the Snowbirds Expat Radio Podcast. I'm Jerry Scott, founder of the Snowbirds US Day Tracker and the Canada Physical Presence Tracker app. Today's episode, we'll be looking at the top 10 cities from snowbirds nesting down south. Now, our top 10 list is based on the downloads we get from the app, the Snowbird US Day Tracker. We'll be discussing the recent 12-month data that includes average price from listings, number of units sold in the previous 12 months, average time on the market. This will also include the percentage increases and decreases. My guest today is Miles Takacs, and he's from Victoria. He's with the real estate advisor, or what we like to call realtors, in Victoria with Remax. And a little bit about Miles. He is a friend of mine that we met in Maui. I believe we were playing a member guest golf tournament at King Kamehameha. And since that time, probably about 4 years ago, because it was pre-COVID, we've spent a lot of time talking about the U.S. real estate, may it be in Maui, may it be in the top 10 cities that we'll be discussing today. So a little bit about Miles. He's from a small town. Miles, I believe you're from Creston. Your father, once again, we have connections through clients and friends in the Creston area. So it's a very small world. I always tell people, be kind to everybody. But Miles started off, for his love to real estate, started off in his father's his business, which was trusses. And then he went on to work in the hotel and management business for many, many years. Now, Miles, how many years have you been involved in real estate in Victoria?
Thanks, Jerry. 15 years now. And just to elaborate a touch on how I got into the business. I mean, my father was an immigrant from Eastern Europe and started a roof truss business from scratch. So I know real estate can lure a lot of people in for lots of different reasons, but literally, I think I was 10 the first time I swept the shop floor. So I've been around a hammer and nails all of my life and been practicing. I've been a real estate practitioner here in Victoria for 15 years. And like you, also have a love of Maui and all warm, sunny spots.
Well, welcome to Vancouver Island. I know you've been there for a while. I mean, I grew up in a little town called Ucluelet on Vancouver Island. So I was one of those guys trying to get off the rock, and you were one of those guys that actually moved your family to the rock. So I guess we don't have as much common as we'd like to think we do. But anyhow, the other thing we're going to be discussing after we talk about the top 10 cities that have been downloaded on the app, and we track all this data because it's very important to us to find out where people are holidaying and or snowbirding, whatever you want to call it. So the top 10 cities that we're going to be going over today are Phoenix, Mesa, Palm Springs, Fort Myers, Yuma, Naples, Tampa Bay, Orlando, Las Vegas, and Palm Desert. And it really does come down to a pretty good mix of all those folks that are living in the East, go down to the East Coast in towns like Fort Myers and Orlando and Tampa. And then on the West Coast here, we have people going down to the Palm Springs area, the Phoenix area, California, San Diego, etc. Now, the last thing we're going to be covering in today's podcast as well will be, and this is Miles' expertise. He's on the island. I mean, we've even looked at moving back to the island one day. And we're going to be talking about some of the top cities where when Canadians do migrate back from the United States, now we're covering our expats and these Americans moving up to Canada or moving back to Canada. We're going to be talking about some of the areas on Vancouver Island. And that's where Miles is really going to be able to add some pretty good expertise. So we're going to get started. And Miles, the first number one city on our list for most people that download the app are from Phoenix. Give us a little bit of an update on what's happening in Phoenix over the last year.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. And not surprising where Phoenix lands based on where you and I call home. I've had quite a few friends purchase down there in recent years. So yeah, Phoenix, I mean, what we saw in the housing market was February of 2023, the home prices down about 9% compared to year over year, selling for a median price of around $400,000 on average. homes in Phoenix were selling after about 73 days on market compared to a much quicker pace in 2021 of 28 days. So, we are starting to see the market adjust really everywhere. There's a lot of similarities in all of these markets, both in America and up here in Canada. It's quite fascinating, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit. And then quickly, just on the volume side of things, there were just shy of 1,400 homes sold in February this year, which is down from just under 2,100 a year ago. So those are just some quick snapshots on the Phoenix market.
That's interesting when we talk about Phoenix because those home sales are down 32% over the previous year. So as you mentioned, people are having to put those homes on the market for a lot longer before motivated buyers are coming along. The second on our list is Mesa. The average house price in Mesa is just under 430,000. There was 519 sales in the previous 12 years. That's down 17%. And once again, it is the days on the market. These homes that are sitting. There's a for sale sign on your front yard. The average time period now is 61 days before a contract is brought to the table. And number 3 on the list, Miles, is
Palm Springs, staying out on the West Coast, another very popular spot. In fact, I was just chatting with two fellas in my Rotary Club this morning that just came home from Palm Springs. So again, just kind of looking at this snapshot down there, February 2023, home prices up actually 8.5% compared to last year, selling for a median price of 715,000. When we talk about median price, not to be confused with average price, the median is kind of a good calculation because it takes out the high and the low and kind of gives you, because that can kind of skew things when we talk about average price. So median price in Palm Springs about 715,000, and then on average they're selling at about 70 days on market, which is basically double from what the pace of the market was a year before.
And like you say, the house prices are still pretty firm. For medium house prices are still pretty firm, still trading at a high as of February 2023. Number 4 on our list is Fort Myers. And when we go through all this research and all this data, this is where we saw some families from Maui sell their places in Kanapali. They're from the Chicago area, and it just made a lot more sense for them. They had a two-bedroom apartment. When the families came over, they were jammed. Yes, they had the pool in the backyard and they had the ocean in the front yard, but they're finding that the value that they can get, may it be a big house with a big pool, is a lot more affordable. Now, sadly, I always say that in Florida, be careful. It's either going to bite you, sting you, or eat you, because you look at these pools and they're covered with nests and of course, the other thing that's going to harm you, and I don't want to be biased towards the East Coast because there's a lot of great people that have decided to snowbird down at Fort Myers. But the cost for the medium home is $390,000. And that is down about 6.8% from the previous 12 months. The amount of units that were sold in the last 12 months are 233. That's down 28%. Now, because of the price of these homes, previously they were selling. You put your house on the market, that house had a contract and was gone within weeks. So now it's taking 19 days. In the previous year, it was 10 days. And number 5 on the list is
Yuma, yeah, heading back out to the West Coast side of the world. Yuma's a place I haven't actually visited before. Have you been there, Jerry?
I haven't, but I do have some friends that I grew up in the Ucluelet. We had a grad reunion this summer, and they talk about Uma. I think it's very affordable for people to go down there. I don't know if they're going down there with their RVs or what they're doing, but there's a lot of Canadians. It's a real big Canadian nest. And
Yeah,
of course, the average house price.
it's amazing to look at some of these numbers. I mean, you talked about people selling in Kanapali, and maybe we'll have time to quickly touch on Maui. We both have a love for there. So looking at Yuma real quick here, February 2023, home prices up, and so you're talking about a median price of right around 300,000. That's up 13% from a year ago. So very, very affordable. On average, homes in Yuma are selling at about the 70-day mark compared to 54 days last year. So again, and we're seeing this in markets across America and across Canada where it's now taking people, there's a big adjustment here going on, right? I mean, it's taken a little longer to sell and the market's becoming a little bit more realistic. So sales volume in Yuma in February last year, they had 83 units. That's down from 100. So not a big shift there, but we are seeing some adjustments like other markets.
Now, I have to remind everybody that we're not picking out our favorite cities. What we're doing is through the data that we have, because we're going to get calls in and people are going to be sending me emails saying, I prefer Fort Myers over Yuma. But these numbers are coming from the Snowbird US Day Tracker. We built a dashboard and we want to see where people are holidaying. And so these are based on the top 10 cities based on the data that we have and the Canadians that are downloading. And we had a call this morning from Fort Myers as well. People very confused. We did a podcast earlier, Miles, with Oliver Branch from Moody's on the immigration side. And we had a call from Fort Myers this morning. So I had to remind them that they were, did I say that they were Fort Myers was number 4 on the list. So like I say, it's not our favorite towns because if that was going to be the case, I have actually put, I said 10 cities, but we're actually going to cover 11 because we put Maui on that list as well. So that's probably
That's
not
the
fair.
bias. That's the bias
Yes.
right there. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
So
it's
number
great. The app is amazing for that in terms of tracking it. So it really is good. And I know later on you're going to be asking people if we're missing markets to certainly let us know. We are more than happy to do the research on those markets as well.
Yeah, because it really is. We're getting a chance through the app to meet so many people through their questions, through their phone calls. It's pretty exciting to find out. And this is post-pandemic. We're going to talk a little bit about pre-pandemic and why sales were, what a lot of folks are doing by coming home and selling everything in the cities and moving to towns like Qualicum and Parksville and Victoria and Saanich, et cetera. But number 6 on the list is Naples. And Naples is becoming, once again, it's one of the higher price points for medium house prices, just under $760,000 for a home. The number of homes sold is 226 over the last 12 months, and that's down about 26%. And then on top of it, the average time that these houses are on the market in Naples is 51 days before we actually see any kind of contract coming forward. And that is actually that is up 36%. So it appears that we're coming from so many hot markets where multiple bids and people lining up and getting crazy over some of these wonderful properties down in Florida, et cetera. Number 7 on the list is
Tampa. And again, another market where we're seeing home prices elevating a wee bit from where they were 12 months ago. And just to be clear too, I know we may be missing some towns where people say, hey, this is where I like to go. And we do know in some of these larger centers, there always are little micro pockets of communities. We can drill down as deep as anyone may want to go. As you know, we've got lots of approved Snowbird agents everywhere, and we are locking horns with some excellent people. So if there's a need for that, we can certainly do that. So looking at Tampa from a broad scope, house prices up about 4.2% year over year. The volume of sales down 20%. That's not a surprise, pretty consistent wherever we're looking right now. And then your days on market, it's taken you, 41 days to maybe get your home sold on average compared to just barely 2 weeks a year ago.
Miles, you bring up a very good point. The whole idea of adding real estate to our Snowbirds Expat podcast is really trying to provide additional education that people can reach out to us. We can actually set them up with a great listing agent down in, may it be Sarasota, Florida, or whatever the case is. We have these relationships, and we want to make sure that people are aligned with people that truly understand the Canadian needs on either how to hold that property if they're using a cross-border trust. And we're going to have a lawyer on our podcast in the future that will be discussing cross-border trusts and why you want to own these things in a trust structure. And if you do decide to rent out your place, what are the tax implications and what kind of filing requirements you're going to have for that trust. So the whole purpose is to make sure that we're lining, like I say, buyers and sellers up with people that really truly understand what a Canadian needs to go through, because the tax implications are different. And we just want to make sure that people are well informed, because I know a lot of these times, I mean, I don't know how many times I went through the motion of showing up at a kiosk in shops of Wailea, and before you know it, Melissa and I are looking at a $10 billion place, and not knowing, actually, we do know how to structure it. No, we did not buy a $10 billion place. But the point I'm making is a lot of people are very impulsive. They have this dream, and these dreams can actually can move these people to make decisions that might not be in their best interest, or maybe not structure them correctly. And once again, seven, I actually have been to Tampa Bay a few times, and it is an incredible place. So
It's a great spot. I've been there too. It's a lot of fun.
and they have a winning hockey team, which is unlike Vancouver. Um, so anyhow, I actually will be going to the game on Friday night. So I'm kind of excited to see the new look Vancouver, and maybe next year we can go on a bit of a Stanley Cup push next year, but not this year. Number 8 on the list is Orlando. Once again, the home of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Goofy. Beautiful place. The average house price is actually pretty reasonable, $345,000. These homes are down 32%. So there was 506 sales last year in Orlando. And once again, it's the amount of time that these homes are actually on the market is up 27% higher, which is now taking you 40 days before you actually get a contract. Now, number 9 is really surprising to me that I have friends that have bought places in Vegas, but I was surprised to see that Las Vegas was on the list at
I
number
was
9 for
too.
Canadians.
Yeah, I was too. But I mean, that's the beauty of the app that you've established. I mean, this is again, we're pulling data from where people are telling you where they're going. So yeah, sitting in at number 9 is that Las Vegas housing market. It's busy down there. I wasn't there too many weeks ago, and it's come back. So just quickly looking at the stats, interesting to see it's actually down year over year by about 8%, with the median price at 382. The volume of sales staying consistent with what we've talked about in various markets, down about 27%. There were 870 homes sold in February. That's down from just about 1,200. And then your days on market have lifted too. It used to take you about 3 weeks to get a place sold a year ago. You're now looking at just a little over 2 months, 74 days on market.
Okay, number 10 on the list is actually Palm Desert. And like Palm Springs, it's the same airport, great airport to get in and out of, very quick to pick up your rental car or have your buddies pick you up, whatever the case is. But these homes in Palm Desert, the average house price is $715,000, or sorry, the medium house price is $715,000. It's up 8% over the previous year. And it's basically homes on the market. They only sold about 102. That has increased by quite a bit. And then the average time in the market is up about 41% from the previous year. So getting a little harder to sell those higher end homes in Palm Springs. Now, Miles, I'm sure you've spent a lot of time in Palm Springs. I've gone there with the buddies, with the wife. It is such a beautiful area.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, we're lucky. All these markets that we've talked about. I mean, I admit I haven't been to Yuma, but there's so many great places that we can go to get out of the Canadian winters. So yeah, it's nice to keep an eye on what's going on. I mean, the housing market's what everybody likes to talk about, and it's critical to be informed for sure. So this has been great to kind of do a review. It'll be interesting to see how this list plays out as we look at it moving through the calendar year, to see if different cities climb up or fall off or whatever. And again, for our listeners out there, please let us know. We'll give you instructions on how to connect at the end of the podcast, but please let us know if there's a market that you'd like us to drill down and provide a little bit of data for you. We're absolutely thrilled to do that for you.
The number 11, and we've given it 2 1s, and maybe next time I'll discuss it as number 1. I'm so biased against Maui. I treat Maui as a true bubble. It is Hawaii. It's not so much United States. People get very offended if you say it's United States. But regardless, Maui has been one of those places where you have a lot of Canadians, a lot of Hawaiians have found a way to kind of live in a very peaceful environment. I always say there's no predators on the island. There's no snakes. There's nothing on this island that's going to bite you. We did have a pig on a wild boar on King Kamehameha last year, and sadly, I heard someone took it home. Hopefully, they took it home to be a pet and nothing more than that. But the average house prices in Maui are still kind of going a little crazy here. We're still seeing the market peak out. The medium house price is over $1 million. There's still multiple bids, but we are starting to see things kind of slow down a little bit. The amount of home sales over the last 12 months are 109. That's down 55%. So the market is slowing. So you're not seeing those multiple bids. We hear about properties where someone's going to list their house and they say it's going to go for, this is 12 months ago, they said it was going to be listed for 1.5. They end up closing in the high, in the 1.9s to the 2.1s. And that's how crazy that market got. We're also finding that these homes are actually on the market a lot longer, about 13% higher. It's now taking about 74 days to sell that your home in Maui. And I think that's hard on a lot of people because it's a hard decision to sell your home because Maui is such a beautiful place. But it is difficult. So we are seeing prices still fairly firm here, but then of course the sales are slowing down, and of course time in the market is increasing. Now, the next part of what we're going to discuss here is that when people are selling their homes, be very careful because from state to state, there is going to be a holdback that you're going to have to maybe 15%, 20%. The state will hold back a percentage of those dollars on the sale of your home. So you do have to work with a qualified accountant and a qualified realtor and a qualified lawyer to make sure that that money is going to be returned to you in due time. Now, we are going to, when you do sell your home, and even my wife talks about this all the time. We live in Vancouver, a little bedroom community called Coquitlam. We've been here for 30 years, almost 40 years actually, and we do love it. But at the same time, as these cities are getting bigger, it reminds me of a book that I read. And Miles, I'm not sure if you ever read this book, but it was published in 1996. And I believe at the time we were calling this person Dr. David Foote. And now I notice that there's no longer a doctor on his name. It's now David K. Foote. But he wrote this book of all these trends that they were going to predict in the future. May people go from drinking hard liquor to drinking, really enjoying their wines, to the point where Canadians were going to be migrating back to these bedroom communities like Creston. I see a lot of people. We go up to Creston at least once a year. We go to Kimberley. We go to Cranbrook. And more people are going back to the smaller communities. And these markets are really taking off over the last 3 or 4 years. And I don't know if that was driven by the pandemic, which I'm sure it was. It could have been. But based on Boom, Bust, and Echo, it did tell us back in 1996 that we'd be looking at places on the island. So tell me a little bit more about what you're experiencing on the island. What are the trends, and is the market still fairly solid on Vancouver Island?
Yeah, the market, I mean, we felt it like some of these statistics that we talked about, even in the larger markets in America. I mean, there's no question about it. The last 3 months, 4 months, the market got very, very quiet. I think it's absolutely safe to say that no matter which market in North America that you're talking about, it's very interest rate sensitive. We are kind of coming out of that a little bit here up north. And so you see the rebound of, you talk about Maui being its own little safe place, and really Vancouver Island is too. I mean, I'm going to go back to say 2008, 2009, when we had the financial crisis, again, where we felt the market stall. I think it was about 90 days max before the rest of 2009 absolutely took off. Now, I'm not saying we're there just yet for 2023, but certainly as of late January, I've been extremely busy. So is my business partner. People are getting back at it, even though they are seeing slightly higher interest rates. And the island is just, it's a safe place for you to park your real estate dollars for Canada. There may be some people who disagree with certain other parts of, say, in and around Vancouver, but I have to tell you, with 15 years experience, that the island, whether that's Victoria, whether that's Qualicum, Parksville, Courtney, we're seeing the market in Port Alberni take off. It's a safe place to go. It was a safe place to park your money before the pandemic. I think the pandemic storyline helped us a little bit too. So yeah, I mean, it's again, I'm aligning myself with agents right across Canada, but then as I bring it in a little bit closer throughout BC and all over Vancouver Island, and the storylines are pretty consistent. It's starting to move again. We've got so many amazing things that draw people to the island, be it I mean, I don't know of too many places, Jerry, where right about right now, actually, as the ski season winds down, where you could go do a few runs up at Mount Washington on Courtney and then zip down and go and play 9 or 18 holes at Crown Isle, just as an example, right? So, I mean, our climate is what drives people here. Our real estate prices are up there. I mean, I'm starting to see people moving away from Victoria and moving to other parts up north of the island, but really just some amazing I mean, the list goes on and on and on about why people would come to Vancouver Island, but we've seen retirees come here for a good number of years. We're starting to see younger people come here as well too.
And that, and once again, when you touch base about the pandemic, this is what we saw with a lot of the trends that we were seeing on the US side. These people were, if you were in your 60s or 70s, this pandemic really, really got you to kind of stop and realize that being separated from your kids, which were going to be your future caregivers, you really do have to really think that plan through. And that's why we're seeing people were selling during the pandemic. And now that we've gone through it, and hopefully we've gone through it, hopefully we won't have another wave, a wave this fall. Mind you, as soon as I get back from Maui, which is flying this afternoon, I'm going to be getting another COVID shot, just preparing for the for hopefully this thing will be under control. But my wife, who has a degree in science and worked in oncology for 25 years, said you better get in there and get another shot. So I'm going to take advantage of it. But it really, we're seeing that trend. We are seeing people sell, rethink their strategies of moving that money back to Canada. And of course, not a bad time to be doing it because you are getting 136 for your US dollars compared to the Canadian dollar. I know Victoria and the island did very well, and all these other smaller communities were doing very well with people gravitating to those smaller towns and moving away from selling their U.S. assets, may it be their snowbird nest down south, but really gravitating to all these other places in Vancouver Island and smaller communities throughout Canada. And as mentioned, Miles has great colleagues, realtors right across the country that he works very closely with. So we look forward to all your questions and about the Canadian market as well as the U.S. market. And when you do have, like, our top 10 cities were based on the amount of downloads from the users of the Snowbird US Date Tracker app, and they were well represented from the east and the west. I think it almost worked out to be 4 to 5 of eastern nests to 4 to 5 of the Canadian nests on the west coast, including California and Arizona. Now, as mentioned, future guests on this show, we want to make sure that we have Miles on every third podcast and really talking about the market, what's happening. We think there's going to be a lot of information coming out because we're seeing regional banks come into having their problems with the Fed moving interest rates too quick and too far. But we want to make sure we have lawyers on our podcast to understand that people how they should structure that property, and making sure that your Canadian, your U.S. realtors really understand that Canadian buyer and seller. And that's what we want to do, is really go through a process with these folks. We know realtors are honest, trustworthy people in most cases. We just want to make sure that we can provide them with additional education. And all your questions, and Miles, I want to take this time to thank you. And when people do have questions, to reach out, we have Miles' email address. Miles, if you want to give them your email address, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yep. You can reach me directly, Miles, that's with an IMILES, Miles at victoriarealestategroup.com. And happy to connect and carry on the dialogue further for sure.
And all the users and folks that will be watching this podcast today, all your questions, we get a lot of your questions through the app. There is a section that says contact us. I'm very quick to get back to people rather than sending emails back and forth, because sometimes we're dealing with tax and immigration. And sadly, a lot of snowbirders that are down south, these rules of immigration and tax are being kind of combined together, and people are very confused. So feel free to either reach out through the app, send Miles a call, contact him through email, or feel free to reach out for us as well. So Miles, until another month from now, we look forward to communicating and being updated on the U.S. market. So truly appreciate your wisdom and your and your ethics. Being a small town guy, we are aligned. We're both small town people. So thanks again for being on the show.
My pleasure. Mahalo.
Aloha.
Thank you for listening to the Snowbirds Expat Radio Podcast. Our app is available for your iPhone and your Android. If you have any questions, call me 604-612-7526. Until our next podcast, I'm Jerry Scott.